the chair for this afternoon session, Dr. Sanjay Bhatt, who is the professor in Delhi School of Social Work, University of Delhi. Dr. Sanjay Bhatt is a highly proactive academician and is presently working as professor of social work at Delhi School of Social Work, University of Delhi since 2001. Dr. Bhatt has been into teaching, conducted research, and implemented action-based projects from last 44 years. He has also taught in the Department of Social Work at various other universities. He is associated with a number of social movements and civil society organizations, such as Center for Community Economics and Development Consultant Society in Jaipur, South Asian Network for Sustainable Agriculture and Development in New Delhi, South Asia Partnership, and Association of Schools of Social Work in India. He is one of the founder members of Delhi-based advocacy group PERVI, NGO Soham, and treasurer of National Association of Professional Workers in India. He has been elected an executive member of International Committee of NGO Forum of Asian Development Bank based in Philippines. Presently, he is involved as a national convener of a countrywide campaign to enact a legislation for Council for Social Work Education. Welcome, Dr. Bhatt. And Dr. Bhatt, with that, I give the floor to you.
Thank you, Anushri ji, for introducing me. I have a pleasure to have a full panel for discussing one of the most important aspects towards inclusive and quality education for girls. In this two-day hybrid mode webinar / seminar planned for every child. And in this parallel session, we have to discover the challenges and new outlook in post-COVID-19. With me, we have 6 panelists. And in this 90-minute, now in 85 minutes, we have to travel a long distance to discover the major objective of this parallel session, finding out how to bring inclusive and quality education for girls. I have also pleasure to introduce my first speaker. Since Dr. Sunita Gandhi has yet to join us, we have Madam Kanchan Devrari, Joint Director, SCERT, Government of Uttarakhand. Dr. Devrari has worked as an academic and administrative head of department in different offices of Uttar Pradesh and now in Uttarakhand. She possesses vast experience in pedagogy, andragogy, and educators training. She has been working as Joint Director SCERT Uttarakhand since 2014, and she has also worked as Principal of Government Girls Inter College, lecturer in Diet, and Government Girls Inter College in Uttar Pradesh. I invite Madam Devrari, and the ground rule for this parallel session is that we have 10 minutes each to speak out. Some of the questions which you find that these are relevant sent to you, you can respond back to that. And in second round, we will come back again to my panelists to have the specific recommendation for this session. So without taking much your time, I humbly invite you to address the audience.
Thank you, sir.
आप सभी को मेरा अभिवादन, सादर नमस्कार। एजुकेशन अपने आप में ही एक बड़ा फील्ड है एंड टॉकिंग अबाउट गर्ल्स, it's also a challenging job. How to sum up in 10 and 15 minutes? That I'll try my best to sum up all these things. First of all, I will go to some backgrounds of this event. That is talked about plan for every child and how to build back better with girls. This is the core issue, and I think if we are able to make that type of word, we will be successful, and our whole society will be a progressive society that I promise. Everybody knows that SDG goal 4 and goal 5, they belong to this aim what we are looking for to ensure inclusive and equitable education, and goal 5 is about equity. So that is not needed to be discussed more, because as Dr. Ashok Kumar and Dr. Soumya Guha, they both have talked about it, and I'll just look at the targets of this goal 4, which talks about complete and free education for girls and boys both. Complete with effective LOs. This is the first thing. And second thing is access to pre-primary education to all boys and girls. Third is equal access to quality technical vocational education. And fourth is eliminate disparities, gender disparities in curriculum and in our teaching pedagogy, whatever it is. We have to eliminate. All youth and adults should achieve fundamental literacy and numeracy. They say about it. They talk about acquiring knowledge and skill. And they also talk about build and upgrade educational facilities to the students with special abilities, and increase the number of skilled youth and adult. This is also one very important target to achieve by 2030. And scholarship, they say that scholarship should be available globally, and increase the supply of qualified teachers. This is also very important target to be achieved. These are motas are 10 targets which we have to achieve by 2030. These are UN goals. And going with this, we were talking about leaving no one behind. This is about inclusive. It means not only girls, but the person with the special abilities and the whatever it is, whether it is SC, ST, or these vulnerable children or children coming from slums and deprived children, they all are to be taken with this. This is inclusive. Gender equality in education. What can we understand about gender equality? If gender equality education system is there, this empowers girls and boys both, and they both empower and they promote the development of life skills also. And those life skills are mainly self-management, communication, negotiation, critical thinking. We are talking about. Critical thinking is also very important. That is also talked about in new education policy 2020. This is very important skill for the students. Close skill gaps that perpetuates pay gaps. That was talked about earlier. That if the girls come in job, and the labor force and the other also, they are facing the challenging of gap of salary, gap of pay gaps, that you can say. And this all, if we build this type of society, gender equality is there, equity is there, then we can build prosperity to entire countries, not only our country, but the whole, because it is a global scene. We are not talking about the India only. This is global scene, and women are facing the challenges, same type of challenges in every country. Girl child is maybe, but in India they are facing more. If I go to barriers to education, why the girls are not having their proper education, then poverty is one of the main issue, which is stopping the girl child to come to their school, because so many reasons. You people, you esteemed guests know very better that awareness and incentives are needed for that. If there is incentive, if there is awareness, they'll come to school. Child marriage is one more important thing. Child, if they get married, they don't come to school, and they are the bent of mind and mindset is that the girl child has to be get married, and boys are not in the, मतलब job में भी ऐसा होता है कि अब if it is boy तो उसको कहा जाता है कि अरे इसकी थोड़ी सी नौकरी लग जाए तो फिर इसका शादी का देखेंगे, but girl child मतलब बहुत अच्छा है कि she completes her study, so now she has completed her studies and now she is ready to get married. Yani you have to marry. So this is the thing, this is the a difference between gender-based violence. We are talking about earlier, it was a huge question, big question was raised here about violence. That is also because it doesn't mean कि वो लड़कियां कमजोर होती है. This is not there. Awareness is not there, and they are in the mindset that they have to, उनको झेलना ही है whatever is going on, and even they are not to speak to others. बोलना भी नहीं है because they feel ashamed, so they keep it in within the doors. तो ये लड़कियां और women दोनों की बात हो रही है. I have seen such cases while I was working in inter college, and the girls they were victim of domestic violence, and they in the morning they come to school and their marks, they can show marks on the faces and body, they show that they have. So whatever the reasons are, I will not go into the details of this, but this is also a reason. When it is about sending the child to the school, boys are favored. Girls को कहा जाता है कि आप घर में रहिए, ये काम है वो काम है, you know very better. दूसरा एक जो अभी बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा उठ करके आ रहा था कि school doesn't meet the needs of girls, their safety, their health and hygiene and sanitation needs. Even safety के बारे में तो देहरादून में एक बहुत reputed school, I'll go for that. So there was a case, you may know all about this, but this is not decent to be talked here, I think, because I am also afraid of talking here. तो वो छोटी सी बच्ची, उसे क्या कहना था, तो schools are not safe. बहुत सारे cases हैं, I'll not go to the details. Teaching practices are also not gender responsive. Teachers are not trained for that. And if they are trained, the trainings are not efficient. Result in gender gaps in learning and skill development. Learning skill development की जब बात आती है, तो skill development अभी हम हाल में हमने गवर्नमेंट ने कुछ जॉब्स और कुछ वो जो है वोकेशनल एजुकेशन के कोर्सेज स्टार्ट किए हैं, वहां पर इंट्रोड्यूस किया है. तो व्हाट हैपेंस कि जैसे ब्यूटी एंड वेलनेस है, दैट इज थॉट फॉर गर्ल्स ओनली, और अगर जो है उसका कोर्स है प्लम्बिंग या इलेक्ट्रिशियन का या अदर्स, तो वो या फोटोग्राफी, दैट इज थॉट ऑफ फॉर बॉयज ओनली. तो ये माइंडसेट भी है. तो इसके साथ भी सोसाइटी में, कैरियर में, इस सब में जो है उसके लिए हमें करना होगा. और एटीट्यूड जो है, ये जो अभी sir talked about it, Dr. Mule, he talked about it, attitude, that was very important. Attitude of society, attitude of school, attitude of जो साथ में पढ़ रहे हैं बच्चे उनका, और ये सब. तो इस सब के लिए attitude of whole society. मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल बताना चाहूंगी. There was a interaction about empowerment of women empowerment that was called by Women Commission of Uttarakhand, and there was a webinar. Our one of the male officer, he went away saying that you three are enough for this and you should talk about it. He should also share with his ideas with them. He should be also sensitized. Otherwise तो आप ladies को sensitize कर रहे हैं और boys are left या girls को कर रहे हैं, boys are left, female को कर रहे हैं, male are left. तो ये तो wholesome नहीं है. तो we have to work for this. अगर हम इन्वेस्टमेंट की बात करें एजुकेशन में तो सेकेंडरी एजुकेशन मतलब आप सब जानते हैं कि इट कैन ट्रांसफॉर्म. अगर हम इसमें इन्वेस्टमेंट करते हैं, हमारे जीडीपी की बात हो रही थी, इफ इट वर्क्स फॉर 6% तो हम बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं. तो इसका अगर सेकेंडरी एजुकेशन में भी इन्वेस्ट करते हैं तो बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं. तो अगर उत्तराखंड स्टेट की बात करें, उत्तराखंड में थोड़ा सा ब्राइट साइड है. Enrollment girls का अच्छा है 51% rather to boys to 47% and girls भी out of school. अभी गुहा जी बता रहे थे, he was talking about worldwide out of school children. तो उत्तराखंड में बहुत कम है. I think 4,000 are identified, out of them 2,000 are girls, but this is very less number. So this is all about. I have to, and if I am given time, I can talk about the practices which we did during the pandemic time, because it was challenge for education. Teacher was not linked with the student. He could not reach to student. Schools were not open. So if I get time, I'll talk about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Devrari ji. You have highlighted some of the issues, but I would have been very happy if you would have come out the post-COVID-19. So please be ready with your recommendation. We will come in second round.
Thank you, sir.
And we will take your recommendation for
Yes.
this. Now, I invite to Sonali Khanji. She is a managing director of Sesame Workshop India, sitting next to me. Sesame Workshop educational mission in India create innovative and engaging content that maximize the educational power of all media to help kids grow smarter, stronger, and kinder. As the MD of Sesame Workshop India, she spearheads a multi-platform initiative that combines the power of mass media with educational outreach to prepare children for school and life. Under her leadership, the organization develops and implements groundbreaking programs to reach children everywhere, especially those who need it most. She is proud recipient of the prestigious Nari Shakti Puruskar, Women's Empowerment Award from the President of India, and School Award for Social Entrepreneurship for her work in ending child marriage. And right now, the issue of child marriage has been mentioned by the earlier speaker. And she works with the pre-primary and primary children. Plays with the technology and mass media provides the solution. We will look forward to you that how to empower, how to build back the girl child in post-COVID society. Please, your time.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatt. Good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be at this panel, especially to talk about education and girls, which is not just relevant in times today, but has always been a most important priority area in any nation building. And I think more so now, my work at Sesame and the organization that I work for, we focus on early childhood, that is ages between 3 and 8. This is the time when the brain development happens the fastest. Yeah, the synapses are formed. After this, the brain development doesn't happen at this pace. Why I'm mentioning this now is because during COVID, many small children have not been able to go to school. आप लोग डेटा न्यूज़पेपर में पढ़ ही रहे होंगे किस तरह बच्चे खासकर गांव में और जो पुअर कम्युनिटीज में है, वो स्कूल नहीं जा पाए हैं, उनके पास डिजिटल एक्सेस भी नहीं है और वो कोई एजुकेशनल मटेरियल उनको मिला नहीं है। वो खासकर डिपेंड करते हैं कि उनके अगर पेरेंट्स भी उतने उनको आइडिया नहीं है कि बच्चों को किस तरह से पढ़ाया जाए घर पे, they have not got access to any educational material, and this is data that is coming out from government sources, from other private sources. Recently the Azim Premji Foundation did a survey, and not the foundation, sorry, the university did a survey where they said that children have also forgotten. 80% of kids in grades 1 and 2 have forgotten certain words, certain literacy skills, and certain numeracy skills. Now, what does that mean? That not only have they lost these years, but they've also forgotten at a time when the child learns the fastest. So this window for us is closing, and as a community, as a society, as parents, as school, as policymakers, if we are not clear and cognizant about the importance of reaching children, especially now, we would have lost this window, and it would result in a future generation that cannot earn, cannot be, our human resource will be greatly impacted. This will doubly impact girls, because we all know, and I think the sessions before me have adequately spoken about the impact of patriarchy on girls and women. मैं उस पे और नहीं बोलूंगी. अगर लड़कियां इस अब रह जाती हैं पीछे, तो can you imagine? I cannot imagine what will happen. So we need to focus on this, at organizations. As SESME, we have been working actively during the last 2 years to reach children wherever they are. We have used media. Media has been one of the biggest ways to reach children. We know that it is not necessarily has worked, because many children have, because of the digital divide, have not got educational content. Teachers have been working round the clock. Girls more so have had lesser access to digital and technology than boys, and that was even pre-COVID. So let's not say that it was only during COVID. So therefore, girls further have fallen behind. So as we think about building back better with girls, we really need to take into consideration all of this. What is the role of parents? I think technology, digital plays a very important role. We as SESME launched a YouTube channel reaching educational content to parents and children actively. But the reason was that parents now need to consider themselves not just as providers, but actually teachers and play partners for their children. We just cannot outsource education to schools anymore. Schools have children will be going back to school now. I was just listening to a young parent in my office the other day, and they said that the child went back to school and started howling. The teacher was a little strict with the child, and the child could not cope. Now, this child is in grade 1, has not gone to preschool, completely not able to adjust. Now, I'm talking about a family that is well-to-do. Can you imagine the numerous families that are out there where children facing different kinds of situations at home are now going to go back to school? How are they going to cope? What's going to be the mechanism? So what is some of the things that we as SESME have learned? One is the role of parents. Very key to this. And not just now, but also going forward over the next number of years to support their children as they go back to school, as they have to catch up in the system. They have to play a very active role. Also, can we just talk about numeracy and literacy? No. I think we need to really reflect on our pedagogy. As SESME, we have been promoting play-based learning. Play-based learning means much more experiential learning based on improving the child's executive skills, reasoning functions, lateral thinking, creative thinking. These are things that will be important for the child going forward. I also want to reflect quickly on the gender aspect of it so that girls don't get neglected. It doesn't mean that we need to focus on boys. Here, the role of both father and mother become very important. In most families, the father is seen as the provider or the nurturer, sometimes the disciplinarian. But अगर माँ को देखें तो माँ ही घर का और बच्चों को संभालती है. पर अब मेन थिंग वी नीड टू फोकस ऑन कि दोनों की भागीदारी होनी होगी, जितनी माँ की उतनी भी पिता की. एंड दिस इज रियली क्रिटिकल, एंड नॉट जस्ट फादर बीइंग इन्वॉल्व्ड इन द अपब्रिंगिंग ऑफ अ सन, but also of a daughter. These are stereotypes that need to be broken down, because a father and a mother, and father equally involved in upbringing of the daughter, will result in a much more confident, capable young girl. I think these are things that we need to carry forward, and this starts very early on. अगर आप सोचते हैं कि लड़की adolescent में ही जाके अपने को समझ पाएगी कि वो क्या कर सकती है, ये नहीं है. Very early on, a girl starts to understand what are her limitations, what can she do, can't she do, based on what she sees at home. Her roles that her parents are playing. उनके घर में माता क्या रोल है, पिताजी का क्या रोल है, वो क्या कर रहे हैं. तो we have to work with the parents. At Sesame, we are very conscious. We have been not just talking about curriculum specifically for girls, but our entire curriculum, I would like to put out here, has to be gender sensitive. It cannot be that there's one lesson just for girls, or, we'll hope that will turn things around. The entire curriculum has to be gender sensitive. And I really want to put that as a clear recommendation. The other thing that I really want to focus on, and I know my time will be running out really soon, is socio-emotional well-being. One of the biggest things that the pandemic has taught us and has brought out in a very glaring way is the absence of skills, of know-how to handle emotional well-being or mental health. How do we, in absence of any kind of skilled people, address this? Now, this pandemic, we know, has impacted the mental health and well-being, not just of parents and adults, but children. Children who can't express themselves, वो अपनी जो मन में उनकी है भावनाओं को वो बता नहीं पाते हैं, और हम उनको समझ नहीं पाते हैं. वो ज्यादा रोकर या कभी गुस्सा कर या कभी टैंट्रम थ्रो कर अपने भावनाओं को व्यक्त करते हैं. So how, as parents, adults, do we understand them? Do we deal with them? The children have been, the invisible face of the impact of COVID, whether it be nutrition and well-being, managing grief, ये बच्चे बहुत देख चुके हैं बहुत जल्दी. So with this, I really want to close my discussion on saying that if we really want to look at young children, specifically girls, we really need to look at socio-emotional well-being, role of parents, which is very critical to the upbringing. We need to see how we can make learning much more fun, because just to focus on literacy and numeracy in a time like this is not going to be effective. Children have lost a lot. We need to rebuild their confidence, integrate them back into the system, and then let's build back better. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonali ji. I fully endorse your viewpoint that we need to work on social emotional well-being, because everyone knows that this COVID-19 brought insecurity, isolation, uncertainty, and insensitivity. And in that atmosphere where we were not experienced this kind of pandemic, we were not able to have the skills to manage it. And adults anyhow have managed it, but for children it was very difficult. So I completely agree with you, and I have a viewpoint that the COVID-19 pandemic is the only pandemic which has brought one good thing into the forefront, the importance of family. And if I exaggerate a little bit, I will say this was the only social institution which fought with the COVID. And that is why if you will see all the slogans across the world, they come out like home isolation, stay home, stay safe, home quarantine. Everything revolves around the family, and probably somewhere the answer of today's discussion is leading us towards that side where Sonali ji has said. I have a pleasure to introduce one of our panel member, Dr. Sunita Gandhi. She is Vice Chair, India Literacy Board, former economist, World Bank, founder, CEO, Devi Sansthan, Dignity Education Vision International, and she is founder of Council for Global Education, USA, and has traveled to and studied education system in 49 countries. She has established a school in Ireland and Czech Republic and India. She is also honorary chief academic advisor of her family-run City Montessori School, Lucknow, that is the winner of UNESCO Prize for Peace Education. I will add here that I have been fortunate enough to be friend of Mr. Jagdish Gandhi, her father, who has established the most renowned City Montessori schools, a chain of schools with lot of innovation and lot of dedication. From his first school from the Station Road to now probably, I do not know, 30 branches or many, I do not know how many branches, but a wonderful educational system. I was a student at that time when his father was establishing this. So don't think that we belong to the same city, so we will be compassionate enough to grant more time to her. Time is 10 minutes only, be assured. But she knows her job very well. I invite you to make the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatt. So kind of you. And I'm so happy to know that there's some understanding of where I'm coming from, a school, basically. So we have to be very humble about education because we are in a field of service to the children. It's a real pleasure and honor to be here with Plan India, and a very good afternoon to all of you. I think we need to look at the successes of the past, like before COVID. And in the last decade, before the COVID, there was undeniable progress in the education of girls in 3 arenas. Access to schooling, we can all agree that was definitely a brownie point. Completion of schooling, a lot of girls, more girls were completing school, and gender parity, except for the most disadvantaged. Despite this significant progress over the last decade before the COVID, half the girls in the 15 to 19-year age group were not in school. Those who had access to learning suffered due to poor quality of education, not to mention stereotyping, which some of the presenters have already mentioned. It is expected that girls will perform poorly in STEM subjects. Female youth have faced persistent barriers in transition from education to workforce. It mostly boils down to early years when expectations are set. These create momentum for the rest of a girl child's education. Now, the pandemic. The pandemic has dented schooling. We can all agree. The girls have been disproportionately affected. We need, therefore, not the old, but new and disruptive solutions, and perhaps a new wave of activism for the education of girls, who need new advocates, more advocates from the ordinary community members to the government. Some of the key points and recommendations are, and I'll take up a few later on as well, but there are quite a few, that firstly, our efforts should help the hardest hit. That is, giving girls' education utmost priority. Are we giving that priority? I don't know. And I don't think so. This means political will, translated as proactive policies that need to ensure every girl gets the education she deserves. Usual modalities are not enough. We need to urgently explore different governance models, including the PPP, the public-private partnership. Some of it is existing, like KGBVs. We need to think of much more dramatic ways of involving the private sector. We need increased financial investment, and no one can disagree with that, to fund those activities that specifically target girls' education, including cash transfers or conditional cash transfers to improve girls' transition to and retention in secondary schools in particular. Girls' secondary education, as ma'am also mentioned, is one of the most transformative development strategies. Governments need to ensure that budgets are gender responsive and that all national education plans and policies prioritize gender equality. We also need widespread community action. This means involving the communities for 2 main things. One, ensuring every girl child is enrolled in the community. And secondly, that they're actually attending school. So We may also tap into women volunteers in the communities in particular, because if they take lead in the community, they can turn communities around. We need to focus on the literacy of the mothers. This is something that we have done a little bit more of in our own work in Lucknow and across the country. 500,000 student volunteers across the country in 13 Indian languages have taken up this toolkit in different languages and taught somebody or the other. In particular, village experiment that's been covered widely has allowed women volunteers to really change their community in a big way. And I think that model can be taken forward. Helping for girls and the most disadvantaged children, we need a helpline. I meant to say a helpline for girls and the most disadvantaged children. And an app equivalent to perhaps Arogya Setu, which enumerates every girl child and her enrollment and attendance. Two things, enrollment and attendance. A special effort and a door-to-door survey to identify and enroll them through Samagra Shiksha scheme. Once they're in school, we need to ensure that they are learning. So data does not indicate much gain in learning year on year. How to make learning real and measurable every day, not just half yearly or annual, and that also is not much going on there. Here, the new use of new apps, there are many of them, but we have also developed one coincidentally called Target Plus. This ensures that real-time data collection is taking place, that immediate corrective action is happening, and there's greater accountability therefore. Assessment data should also be used to eliminate gender-related gaps in learning. We need to stress on foundational skills of literacy and numeracy. I kind of agree with the presenter before me from Sesame Street, but that these are skills that they have lost on. And we also need to emphasize early learning. The NEP, New Education Policy, and Nipun Bharat are designed to meet the targets of SDG 4 squarely and before time. And so we need more aggressive agenda on that from the learning front. We need to also in that context, and this is a new thought process, we need to create a safety net in terms of learning. That means a limited set of learning objectives organized for each grade and subject, not the total curriculum, just the safe net that every teacher should ensure every student knows. These are the foundational skills along with digital and financial literacy. In this context, we have developed a toolkit, which is a near zero cost methodology that takes a learner from ground zero to grade 3 in foundational literacy and numeracy in less than 5 months. If this is possible, then such a disruptive solution is probably the way forward. Business as usual with few changes at the margins of education are simply not sufficient response to the crises. Once the skill to read is developed, rest of the skills will follow. For example, confidence in spoken English, vocabulary, fluency, comprehension, and the broader objectives of a good education, effective and joyful learning, paired and group work, especially in the foundational years, will get more children to stay with education. A quality education, I agree with the presenter before, is more than just learning. It is about feeding aspiration. It is about nurturing confidence. It's about building self-efficacy, social and emotional development, and more. We need to make these objectives central. We need new processes of teaching and learning that are not laborious and that inspire ordinary teachers to become extraordinary by helping them reach the highest standards through a data-driven approach that draws upon worldwide research and that enables every teacher to become an action researcher. It also means extra focus on engagement and empowerment of the school leaders and holding them responsible for the delivery of, for example, foundational literacy and numeracy, to quickly bridge that learning gap widened by the COVID. It is possible with new and disruptive solutions, but not with the old. And we need to move away from the idea of syllabus completion to move to time-bound targets, short-term goals, checking on outcomes. This also means a different monitoring, a different accountability, and a different transparency, which has been a perennial and persistent problem in the past. So how do we address that? In place of carrot and stick approaches, the old threat of transfers or reprimand, we need to explore creating a vastly different model of accountability, one that creates intrinsic motivation within the teachers. We need to institute greater peer accountability that comes from creating spaces for sharing among teachers at local, regional, and national levels. Sharing with peers creates a different psychology and the cross-fertilization of ideas. The best praise for a teacher is when she feels appreciated by her own peers and when her students succeed. Awards are not required. This is old and may in fact lead to short-term extrinsic impact, but not the intrinsic motivation we seek on the longer term. We need to mainstream these teacher spaces where sharing is happening in the teacher's monthly timetable. These new spaces need to be replaced or replace typical training of teachers, which is not working because what is learned is soon forgotten, and it really translates into classroom practice. We also need to focus on professional development, on gender responsiveness and gender responsive pedagogies, so that teaching practices are gender responsive and that curriculum not only removes gender biases, but also shares more female role models and inspires girls to take up STEM. So along with these and some other ideas, I hope that these measures have a strong potential to build back better with the girls. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. Like your qualification, like your father, you spoke about the future. And 21 recommendations you gave. I think each one of them is equally important and worth considering and worth discussing. So thank you once again for remaining. I will come back to you. We have another panelist, Mr. Rishi Kumar Singh, who is the head strategy and communication, Yuva Unstoppable. Mr. Singh is also known as Positive Rishi Kumar. Not in form of testing HIV or COVID. He is positive in his approach, and he's a long story why he called Positive Rishi Kumar. Is a strong background in leadership, administration, and management. His core strength is to empower youth, maximize their potential and skills for nation building, and drive them to live a sustainable lifestyle. He has over 15 years of experience in leadership position with organizations and companies based in India and the USA. He left his corporate sector career and devoted his life to the empowerment of young people in India. He has mobilized over 50,000 volunteers from institutions and corporates in Swachhata Mission initiative to create awareness amongst more than 3 lakh people across Gujarat, Delhi, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh, not in his own home state, Madhya Pradesh. His deep interest in social work has led him to work in the mentorship of Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi and late President Dr. Kalam for the cause of education and Digital India initiative to improve the quality of education in government schools. He received Target 3 billion book as an award signed by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, and he has also received appreciation letter from Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well as Sri Manohar Lal Khattar, Chief Minister of Haryana. Young by appearance, heart, smile, I'm sure that he will bring, build back the better situation for us. Please, Rishi Kumar ji.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Dr. Sanjay Dutt, and my dear eminent panelist and dear friends. I must say thank you for this opportunity to Plan India and my dear friend, Mr. Asif, for inviting me to this prestigious global platform and to share what Yuva Unstoppable does for children, especially for girls. To begin with, as sir mentioned about my name, Positive Rishi Kumar, so I would add quickly why it is. So years back, when I started my professional career, so I was seeking help from random friends to find a house. And for 2 weeks, no one helped me. So I just rushed to, as I had to find a house, so I rushed to, anybody, so there was also a security guy. I asked him, Bhaiya, Infocity, where I was working initially, which is Gandhinagar, Gujarat. So I asked him, भैया कोई घर दिलवा सकते हैं? He said, sir, अभी दिलवा देते. I was feeling कि एक सिक्योरिटी गार्ड मुझे अभी मदद करने को तैयार हैं और वो दोस्त जिन्होंने शायद रोज टकराता हूं वो मेरी मदद नहीं कर पाए. So with this gesture, I realized probably there could be hundreds of people like me who seek help and they don't find it from friends. So I started finding my ways of helping people in my professional capacity, in my personal capacity. And gradually people, started saying, he's a positive guy, he's positive, go and ask help from him, he'll help you. So I was able to help most of them as max I could do. And that was the reason that people started calling me positive, and I added as an adjective, and I felt it to use as a title, basically. Thank you. Sir, I would like to add something very important, the culture of Yuva, basically. So when the organization Yuva started by the founder, Mr. Amitabh Shah, he was practically moved by some experiences which drove him to orphanages especially, and he realized that there is much need to work for children, for old age people, and slowly and gradually the group of young people shaped like it formed like an organization gradually, and the Yuva Unstoppable officially started in 2004 with group of volunteers who decided कि हमें गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में बच्चों को हर हफ्ते 2 घंटे पढ़ाने जाना है with this small concept. And this concept inspired compassion, and it inspired compassion in a way that, in fact, Honorable PM, when he was CM in Gujarat, he found that this gesture of giving your 2 hours in a week in a school or in a place where small kids just waiting to see your smile. They don't remember how they spend their day, but they want to just meet you and learn from you something. And gradually this initiative got bigger, and the culture became so advanced that today, as an organization, we have adopted more than 2,000 government schools where we have been tracking students from almost 15 years. I have personally seen, I am part of the organization from almost 13 plus years now. So there are kids I have seen, there are girls I have seen, there are student volunteers I have seen, students whom I have seen when they were in 5th standard, they have passed colleges now. There are more than 2,000 students at present at Yuva Unstoppable whom we have tracked for more than years. And there are many who were given scholarship before 5 years and they are in IITs. So what I would propose here is, I would recommend, is the culture of purposeful learning. The culture of purposeful learning is that a person like me, who was working in a corporate, whose dream was once that, एक टाई पहन के मुझे corporate में जाना है और अपना time अच्छे environment में spend करना है. But trust me, I was not happy at all. I was really not happy at all. And I found my purpose to be in a slum, which was very adjacent to the Gandhinagar में जो अक्षरधाम मंदिर है उसके पास में. और मैं almost हफ्ते में 3 दिन जब मैं रात को जॉब करता था और सुबह आके आराम करता था और शाम को जब मैं उठता था तो अपने आप को मैं उस जगह पे ले जाता था जहां पे बच्चों को, मुझे पता है वो बच्चे स्कूल नहीं जाते थे, उन बच्चों को हम लोग एक गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में नाइट स्कूल की तरह हमने उसे क्रिएट करके रखा था. सो देयर वर सेवरल पीपल लाइक मी हु वर वॉलंटियरिंग, बट आई थिंक आई स्टूड आउट बिकॉज there was a zeal within me that I mobilized thousands of these young people whose passion similar like me, whose purpose was to educate a girl child who was probably going with her mother to wash utensil in some home. Probably it was a need of her family, but it was also much needed कि हम उस particular child को कैसे at least 2 घंटे उसको inspire कर सके, उसको motivate कर सके. So this culture became, so amazing that in these years, when in most of these schools where we have developed, sanitation facilities, drinking water facilities. I would say the overall infrastructure development. Most importantly, I would emphasize on the smart class program that actually changed the way how teachers were teaching. It's a Google feature classroom. And in all of these schools, especially as it is very important to mention that how it has actually impacted during COVID. So we have seen that in many of these schools where we had this smart class program. So this program, how it works, like, teacher, which generally traditionally when जो chalk or board का use होता है. So teachers जब इस smart class program का use करते हैं तो वो जो भी पढ़ाते हैं बोर्ड पे उसको एक PDF के फॉर्म में सेव कर सकते हैं. And we all have seen, maybe you might have seen your children's receiving lots of YouTube video and so on. So the teachers in our smart school, they use this particular technology to make use of it in the same way. जैसे वो रोज बच्चों को पढ़ाते हैं, but without students. They taught on the board, they created PDF and then they send it to student. That was a better way of just sending random things to teach children. So, this was one of the strength that we found, that how this smart class program have actually helped during COVID. And as I was mentioning that my recommendation is for purposeful learning experience, I would end by sharing one amazing experience. In fact, there are so many, but I'll just mention one and we'll complete. So out of so many schools, there is one particular school in Delhi, as we all from Delhi, most of you. So there's one particular school in a place called Badli, Libaspur. There were 1,700 boys and we built sanitation facility, drinking water facility for that particular school. And in 11th standard, there were few boys who were already self-motivated. They wanted to work for the vicinity, the community area, which is so dirty. Let's be very honest, the area which is in Libaspur, Badli, Bhalaswa, which is so dirty. So these young boys were always planting trees, were motivated to clean the vicinity and making sure कि वो कुछ अच्छा करें. जब उन्होंने देखा कि उनके स्कूल में इतने सुंदर टॉयलेट्स बने, they came to me. Of course, I used to go and spend time, interacting with them. So these boys, they came and said कि सर हम क्या करें? I said, जो कर रहे हो, आप इतना कुछ कर रहे हो, अपनी community के लिए करते रहो. And you would not believe, within just after their school, I helped them establish their foundation. This is, I'm talking in relevance to how we can actually make the children's life purposeful. So, these children, just after a year when they passed their, schooling, I helped them establish their foundation. They became part of the mainstream where they were actually recognized by UNDP program manager, Honorable Urban Affairs Minister Hardeep Singh Puri ji, and UNICEF chief for their efforts towards cleanliness, for the cleaning mission of the Bhalaswa Lake, of their, their community area, So when their life became purposeful by doing something that is changing their own habits, bringing discipline in them, probably they would have, gone on the wrong side of life. Probably they have adopted some addiction or something bad, I am so proud of these students because the only reason because they found their purpose at this very young age and they're contributing on ground. They're right now working on a waste circular economy, and I'm talking about these government school children. I'm not talking about someone who has studied in big institution and decided I want to do some charity or some change. So they found this purpose and they're contributing a lot. Similarly, शायद एक लड़की है मनीषा, आज मैं उसे हर alternate days regular coach करता हूँ because I found that her passion is yoga, but no one knew that. I introduced her to one of my friend daughter in US, and she and Manisha and that Sammy both share some videos of gym, some yoga with each other, and it's inspired them in a way that now Manisha feels मुझे fitness guru बनना है. So that way we can make someone life purposeful, and I end up with this note that Plan India, which is such a great platform for several of the non-profits, and we are also working with Plan India in initiatives where we are aiding government to push the vaccination program. So I'm thanking Plan India for support, and thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Rishi, and positively finishing within 10 minutes. we have, you have one message, one line message, culture of purposeful learning. Thank you very much. That can be turned out into a recommendation. Just keep thinking how you would like to make it a recommendation to part of this scientific parallel session. We have the another panelist, probably the youngest panelist on this board, Geetanjali Yadav. Geetanjali is associated with the Department of Adult Continuing Education and Extension of University of Delhi as a research scholar. She likes to work with children. She had worked with a natural science teacher in the Delhi government school under Directorate of Education. Her area of interest is curriculum studies, critical identity development, gender studies, guidance and counseling, science education, and teachers education. Currently, she is assistant professor with the Department of Elementary Education, Miranda House, University of Delhi. So Geetanjali, your time starts now. With so many area of interest, we look forward to see how you translate this theme into doable recommendations. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you for giving such a nice introduction. A very good afternoon to everyone. I will be very brief, and firstly, my insights are from Delhi government schools because I am connected to a teacher education program, and our interns are teaching in Delhi government schools, MCD schools. So my insights are from those areas. So when reflecting on challenges during COVID-19, I have a list of challenges which may be repeated, like some of the speakers have already discussed those challenges. So pardon me for that. The first challenge which I have identified is health challenge for children, especially girls. It is physical, mental, and spiritual. So physical and mental health we have already discussed, but the spiritual dimension we have skipped. So in India, when we are talking about spiritual dimensions, we have a lot of people, a lot of personalities which have worked on spirituality, like J. Krishnamurti and Aurobindo. So basically, this dimension is being not there in the curriculum. So while dealing with this pandemic problem, in context of children, there is a negative impact on their mental health, being at home all the time and getting negative news related to COVID-19 impacted on mental health and on learning process of children. Living in stressful conditions created anxiety, fear, mood swings, and other mental disorders in children. So main causes of stress are, I thought that are financial challenges, their education at risk, like no mobile, no internet access, and no interaction with peers, especially with the girls, that they are not able to express themselves completely. Loneliness, COVID anxiety, worried for parents, social behavioral stress they are facing, dependency on space outside home, like cattle grazing, using public toilet, etc. in slums. So the and the impact of world news, which are disturbing their mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. So one of the challenges is that how to deal with these problems. And the second challenge is the midday meals. Midday meals get stopped. We have already listened a very enriched discussion on this topic in previous sessions, that why midday meal gets stopped. They may be incentives for parents, for the children to come at school and get some quality interactions in the education system. The third one is access to online teaching is limited. So there is diversity in the demographic, and some have connectivity problems, some have lack of devices. So some may have limited devices, like they have 2, 3 siblings in their home, and they have only one device at home, and they are not able to attend the class. Like their brother is using their gadget at that time while they have a subject specific class. So there is a challenge in access to online teaching. And fourth one, which is very important one, is that fixed curriculum. They are getting worksheets from Directorate. The teachers just giving them worksheets and ask them to complete those worksheets. Moreover, at to some extent, they extend their teaching to textbooks, but not beyond that. So this is very worrisome situation that in pandemic time they have a fixed curriculum. And the fifth one is decline in children's retention of reading and other capacities. Children are not able to focus on specific tasks because of worries, and a teacher's role is to facilitate, and that role is missing somewhere. There are various other factors also for this challenge, so we need to look into that challenge also. The sixth one is dropout challenge. Several children, especially from marginalized sections, have had to drop out of school owing to the lockdowns. If the students who have left the system altogether are traced and brought back and reintegrated into the system, that too will be a monumental achievement for all of us. That is also a concern for all of us to see. And the next one is, which is the seventh one, is the management of existing infrastructures in schools. जो existing infrastructure है, resources हैं, like teacher, like textbooks हैं, उनका जो management है, वो बहुत ज़रूरी है. Like during the COVID, teachers get engaged to other activities, other sort of activities, like they have duties on airport or in vaccination centers, etc. So they are not able to attend teaching learning process appropriately. So management of existing infrastructure is very, very important. There is shortage of teacher also. There are ad hoc and para teachers जिनकी रिक्रूटमेंट होने में डिले हो जाता है, 1-2 महीने लग जाते हैं, और इतने स्टूडेंट्स जो हैं प्रॉपर तरीके से अटैच नहीं हो पाते हैं, एजुकेशन अपने करिकुलम से नहीं जुड़ पाते हैं. सो दैट इज वन ऑफ द मेजर चैलेंज. एंड the important one is teacher preparation programs, teacher development programs. They need to be updated according to the situation arising in COVID-19. Like teacher preparation programs में टेक्नोलॉजी TPC के एक फ्रेमवर्क है, टेक्नोलॉजी, पेडागोजी, कंटेंट एंड नॉलेज. So we have to adopt that framework in which we have to integrate technology also, so that teachers are competent to use technology in their lesson planning, in their unit plannings. So that is also one of the challenge. And yes, one of the speaker have already mentioned it, that students are not able to express themselves fully. How can a learner express on WhatsApp teaching, online teaching? How can a learner express his or her problem on an online mode? Some of the problems a teacher listen, counsel or guide or mentor during physical interaction. So that thing is somewhere missing. So that is also a big challenge. Most of the children are in trauma, and it will take a lot of time to heal. So there must be some sensible curriculum we have to develop to address those challenges. So and one of the most biggest problem is that NEP 2020 come in this pandemic time. So comprehending, rendering NEP recommendations for a teacher need to be worked upon that. How a teacher should render NEP 2020, especially in from the aspect of inclusion of girls, because there are very very complicated terminologies used in this document. This is this broad document, like they are talking about inclusion of SEDGs, socio-economic disadvantages group. So what are those groups? How a teacher could identify those groups? How a teacher comprehend those groups? How what sort of factors, what sort of characteristics girls possess, and how a teacher can connect those characteristics to these SEDGs. So that need to be worked upon. So I don't know how I am able to express myself, but thank you all to listen me patiently. Thanks.
Thank you, Geetanjali. You have, out of 7-8 challenges, you have beautifully challenged the challenge of expressing yourself. Don't worry. Keep the recommendation ready. I'm just coming to you. We have our last panelist, Dr. Rajni Badva, Director Program Implementation from Plan India. Dr. Badva is public health specialist. She brings expertise in health, nutrition, education, and gender. Dr. Rajni works as Director Program Implementation at Plan India and leads different projects on inclusive and quality education, amongst many others across 100 districts in the country. I wish I could have more biodata, but this is more than enough that she is an expert in health, nutrition, education, and gender. This is your time, Dr. Rajni.
Thank you very much to Dr. Sanjay Bhatt, and particularly to all those who have taken time to join us today. I will start with restating what all the co-panelists So I will start by restating what all my co-panelists have started with, that is highlighting the global health crisis of COVID-19 pandemic that has significantly slowed progress towards many of the global goals. In particularly the 4th Sustainable Development Goal of ensuring inclusive, equitable, and quality education. We have seen global education systems collaborating to collectively respond and provide quality education for all. Plan India, with its long-term presence of working with vulnerable communities across 15 states in the country, has examined the pandemic impact and noted an exacerbated learning crisis and education inequalities that has disproportionately impacted the girls, children, young women, and the poor. As the schools remain shut down for almost 2 years, school children have been deprived of joy of learning, of playing together, interacting, and making friends. Most of the children from the poor and the marginalized families were unable to realize the benefits of digital education programs because of lack of access to digital devices and internet connectivity. And in poor and marginalized communities, parents are mostly illiterate, often ill-equipped to support early learning needs of their children. The problem has been further complicated by the closure of the Anganwadis to children, which has resulted in denial of even the little stimulation and development inputs that Anganwadis used to provide. Even when these reopen, we don't know whether they will engage in any sustained activities to cater to the development and the socio-emotional needs of the children. We also noted poor learning levels in school-going children, and many children have forgotten reading and writing during school closures. Issues of gender inequality, early age marriage of girls, instances of child labor and child trafficking have also come forth, and so also the increased instances of domestic conflicts and abuse. Now, given this context, Plan India implemented Shikshantar, a COVID innovative program to ensure continuity of education through remedial teaching support to poor and deprived children, especially girls. The program created a cadre of community change makers, whom we call as Shiksha Mitras or Youth Fellows. They are the fulcrum of the Shikshantar project. These Shiksha Mitras were trained on pedagogy and leadership skills, and also how to handle remedial coaching, especially in the subjects of science, maths, and English. They were also trained on learning assessments and providing social, economic, emotional support. We also provided scholarship to children from the marginalized families. Online teaching solutions were developed for wider reach, and this is coupled with community-based face-to-face interventions. The program has used technology extensively. Online learning activities and assignments, homework packages were disseminated through WhatsApp, Zoom, Diksha, and other relevant e-learning apps. Also, monitoring and evaluation of these programs is done through online meetings, digital MIS using Kobo app, etc. There were various drives conducted to enroll out-of-school girls. Basic stationery and education kits were distributed to the needy students, and in some instances, even tablets were distributed for maintaining the continuum of education. We also worked towards strengthening and capacity building of the school management committees and the school development plans, which were developed together with different stakeholders such as teachers, parents, panchayat representatives. We leveraged the community youth clubs to reach out to adolescents with training on various soft skills, leadership skills, life skill education. And older students were linked to skill building trainings and career counseling. Reach of these programs has been phenomenal. In a very short span of time, thousands of children, especially girls, have benefited from this program. And what we saw is this remedial education support provided a very effective antidote in preventing school dropouts and discouraging incidences of early marriage. So based on interventions, I have few recommendations which I'll come probably in the next round. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So friends, you have heard the panelists on the issue of inclusive and quality education. Each one of us agree that there is a need of quality education, and everyone has expressed in its own way. However, I am the culprit that because of the time, I could not give much time to my panelists. Otherwise, they would have been more expressive and given more beautiful suggestions. But quickly, we will go one by one, having few recommendations. So starting from Rishi Kumar, positive Rishi Kumar with some positive recommendations.
Thank you, sir. Sir, as I shared, my recommendation is for the purposeful learning experience. And this is because I have always believed in experimenting things with children, and I must say people of every age. And when I have seen that helping young people to experience something that they love, that they want to believe that this is what they find it meaningful for their life. It helps them not only to cherish it as learning, as experience, but also it makes way to make career in it. And I think with this note, I will conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishi. Gitanjali.
Some of the recommendations I have already integrated in the challenges, and a few one I want to share with you. The first one is to have a component of counseling, guidance, and mentoring in the education system for pre-service teachers, and learners at 3 levels. And the second one is the midday meal should be continued, and other schemes and scholarship must be encouraged, must be incorporated to encourage the parents to send their children in the education system. Third one is to provide space for learners to access learning through technology. For example, making supportive group in a house or in school according to conditions. Flexible timings can provide recordings of the classroom discussions. Where there is a lack of resources, community radio learning program must be introduced. The fourth one is the sensible curriculum must be created. Like one of the interview I have read in Frontline of Professor Krishna Kumar, and I would like to express that in his views, I'm reading from that for the sensible curriculum. Principals and teachers will have to put their heads together to figure out how to draw up a sensible curriculum for the coming months. A curriculum that does not stress on performance in tests to find out where a child is or isn't. It has to be a curriculum that gives the teacher substantial freedom to pick and choose items in the syllabus or from the textbooks that she considers most important than others for which she may decide to devote more time. So a teacher must have freedom to introduce such topics which are which she think is important for the learners at that time. Aesthetic experiences is known to have healing effects. Arts such as music, painting, theater, and dance hold a marginal position in our school system. It's very important in these days that these arts receive additional resources and regular space in the coming months in all type of schools at every stage. Next recommendation is that we must remember that a capacity once acquired will resurface and gradually gain strength if the need for it arises at a comfortable pace. So we need to provide space to children, and our system simply does not care for child's comfort, and very few among teachers recognize that as the topmost priority in organizing their lessons must comfort the learners. That is the end.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just make one major recommendation. I think we give the Anganwadi worker a very big task of looking after young children and their well-being, but we need to train her and equip her more to be able to perform this task, which includes so many things from nutrition to well-being to education. So I think my recommendation would be to really train and help the Anganwadi worker, but also provide her additional support, because alone she cannot manage the big task. And how can we equip her better? And with all the good things that Gitanjali just mentioned, really strengthen the Anganwadi system.
Wonderful. Very true. Sunita ji.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Okay, two perhaps further recommendations. I think we need to take a system-wide approach, a systemic approach to both more inclusive education, for example, no girl child left behind, and to quality education. That means allowing for the private sector, NGOs, school teachers to come forward with new processes of teaching and learning. And for that, creating that openness, especially by the government, because it seems like the government may be, having proactive policies, of course, but still being the gatekeepers to the old and established. It's very hard to change curriculum. And when we go with a new curriculum, they say, oh, but we have a really good curriculum. And reminding ourselves of Einstein's quote, he says, it is insanity to think that doing the same thing over and again will produce a different outcome. It'll produce the same old outcome. So, allowing the window of change and bringing the partnership of everyone and a systemic approach that means everything really, because we are in a state of emergency, especially after the COVID. So where do we act? Everywhere. And then in relation to the pedagogical options, I'd like to say that it's important to continue to explore blended learning environments because though in the future we will probably be more on offline than online, but regressive education, as Azim Premji University findings have shown, that's because of only online. But into the future, and we have all learned the skill to blend education, we need both blending and hybrid, especially for senior girls who find safety issues to be very dominating for them to come out of their comfort zones. And especially when you think of MOOCs, that it'll be very powerful if they could study at home and if we could have a very proactive strategy about giving, especially to the girls, a device and connectivity. I think that'll be very proactive. So investment, greater investment we talked about earlier, but in specific to continue to train teachers and make them capable for blending learning, because certain things are done better online, for example, assessments. Thank you.
Thank you. Kanjan ji.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Plan India, for giving this wonderful opportunity. I would like to talk about pre-COVID period. Challenges of COVID period are talked about much, and what the Uttarakhand state did in that time. Within that duration, we found that syllabus. We were working on Mission Koshish. This is a program in which we try to fill up the learning gaps, and it is a revision program of earlier classes learning outcomes, and it makes ready the student for the next class. So we do work on that. We were working on that, और उसी के बीच में कोविड आ गया था, तो हमने मिशन कोशिश पर काम किया. It was for primary section. Later on, we worked for elementary also. We introduced some worksheets, and offline and online we did something, but it was not so very useful because as 30% of the children had devices with them. Devices means one device in home, this type of things. So it was not easy. So we developed the worksheets, and offline program was done through teachers. They distributed it with MDM and got it back next week. This type of work was done. For secondary education, we broadcasted some lectures through Doordarshan, Dehradun, and it was within reach of the student. Most of the students, they saw it because TV sets were 80% of households were having TV sets within them. So we were working with the e-Pathshala and this PME Vidya program. So we were working hard on all this. We also worked hard with teacher training. Through our virtual studio, we worked on teacher training, and during pandemic, we took our life on risk, and we taught, I think, all of our teachers with Mission Koshish program and ICT. We made them technically sound so that technology friendly, our teachers, so that they could be able to transmit the things to their students. Now we talked about some apps, some websites, and some videos, this thing. This was done during the COVID, and campaigns were also had for girl child especially. We also did some IVRS system, also we did it, and send the messages to parents to make them aware about their girl child's education. This all was done during that time, and dissemination of SOP of COVID. It was also disseminated. So this was also a big challenge, and all the things we are already doing in schools. मैं एक बात और कहना चाहूंगी कि जो हम पहले से कर रहे थे उन चीजों को छोड़ना नहीं है, क्योंकि अगर हमने उनको छोड़ा तो नजर हटी और दुर्घटना घटी वाली बात है. If we don't go for access, universal access, तो क्या होगा कि बच्चा कोई तो रह ही जाएगा. बहुत ही मतलब यहाँ पर सारे लोग बहुत विद्वान बैठे हैं. एक बात, एक एग्जांपल मैं शेयर करना चाहूंगी।
मैम रिकमेंडेशन दे दो आप तो।
ओके,
थोड़ा टाइम कम है अपने पास,
Okay.
नहीं अदरवाइज वी वुड हैव लिस्टेड।
okay, sir. But this is very important.
जी
What I was sharing. One of my maid, she had girls and they were of above 15. And they hadn't gone to, they didn't, never went to school. I asked them to go to school. They were feeling ashamed that हम बड़े हो गए, we cannot go to school. So we had to work for those girls. जिन तक हम पहुंच ही नहीं पाए, वो कभी भी नहीं पहुंच पाए, आज तो पहुंचे। और कैसे होगा, क्या होगा, ये तो हम सब सोच सकते हैं मिल करके। तो मेरी जो मैंने अभी सबने दिया है रिकमेंडेशन, तो आई नॉट रिपीट दैट। एक एटीट्यूड चेंज के लिए हमारा करिकुलम उसमें होना चाहिए, एटीट्यूडनल चेंज के लिए। दूसरा, एडिक्वेट एंड एफिशिएंट टीचर सप्लाई होनी चाहिए। अगर टीचर नहीं है तो वी आर नॉट एबल टू ट्रांसफॉर्म, वी आर नॉट एबल टू मटेरियलाइज द थिंग्स। और गर्ल्स को टेक्नोलॉजी फ्रेंडली होना चाहिए। स्कूल कॉम्प्लेक्स जो एनईपी में है एक, वो बहुत अच्छा साधन है इसको मेटेरियलाइज करने के लिए। और दूसरा, मैं ये कह रही हूँ कि कॉमन स्कूलिंग सिस्टम होना चाहिए, क्योंकि ऐसा ना लगे कि जब लड़के लड़कियां अलग, इंक्लूसिव की बात हो रही है, तो कॉमन स्कूल सिस्टम जब रहता है तो इट मेक्स द गर्ल्स मोर कॉन्फिडेंट एंड मोर स्किल्ड एंड मोर मीन्स जो वो ज्यादा अपने को कॉन्फिडेंट महसूस करते हैं और ज्यादा लर्नेड और ज्यादा अपने को सिक्योर महसूस करते हैं। मे बी सम अदर थिंग्स, बट ये है। एक और जो इम्पोर्टेंट रिकमेंडेशन है वो ये है कि कंटिन्यू करना लाइफ लॉन्ग लर्निंग फैसिलिटी की जो बात हो रही थी, तो जैसे एनआईएस हमारा वर्क कर रहा है, इस तरह के सिस्टम को बढ़ावा दिया जाना चाहिए। whenever wherever you want to learn, you can learn. That should be that type of facility should be there. And last but not least, marriages, जो ये marriage की age है, although it doesn't have a link with, but education का link तो सारी चीजों से है, चाहे वो health है, चाहे कुछ भी है। एजुकेशन इज द मीन जिससे हम ट्रांसफॉर्म कर सकते हैं। तो वो जो 21 साल और 18 साल, तो हम पहले ही कह रहे हैं कि भाई लड़की 18 साल की होनी चाहिए, लड़का 21 साल का होना चाहिए। व्हाई दिस डिफरेंस? क्यों नहीं हम कहते हैं 21 साल का लड़का, 21 साल की लड़की? वो इतनी छोटी लड़की, तो जब चाइल्ड मैरिज को हमने इतना रोका है, अगर हम एज को बढ़ाते हैं, आज उसकी जरूरत भी है, तो लीगली थोड़ा सा इजी हो जाएगा लोगों को उस बात के लिए कि गर्ल्स गेट रेडी फॉर मैरिज। और लास्ट खत्म करूंगी सर, डॉक्टर शांता सिन्हा जो रेमन मैग्सेसे अवार्डी हैं और चेयरपर्सन रही है नेशनल कमीशन फॉर प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ चाइल्ड राइट की, उन्होंने कहा कि वी हैव टू आस्क आवरसेल्व्स, आर स्कूल्स इंक्लूसिव एंड हाउ कैन दे बी मेड मोर इंक्लूसिव? The task boys are made to do in school are clean the blackboard, and while girls are made to sweep. So this is the difference. तो इस डिफरेंस को बदलने के लिए भी we have to do something. Thank you very much.
थैंक यू, थैंक यू,
Thank you.
डॉक्टर बाबा।
Yes, sir. So I'll start with my first recommendation of ensuring that the funding and support continues for education systems. Secondly, we all heard that the teacher's role and skills are irreplaceable. So leadership, financial, material resources for teachers are necessary to make sure that the quality of teaching and learning can continue even at distances during crisis time. E-learning solutions we know are more effective if the teachers, students, and families have adequate electricity, open spaces, internet connectivity, computers, tablets. But more traditional media via print, televisions, phones, radios can offer more viable ways, especially in poorest communities. Also, talking about parental engagements, it is important that parents are provided with ways and support and guidance through, say, parental kits and other resources that can be included to facilitate homeschooling. Also, we all know that the deep partnerships at every level will ensure sustainability. So government can harness public-private partnerships to supply needed technology, especially. In order to ensure that the basic and continued education services travel to remote communities, our Shiksha Mitras felt that can be exempt for any from the travel restrictions. And lastly, I think it's very vital that schools be reopened in the best condition once the crisis is over. Thank you.
Thank you. So, a very practical and beautiful set of recommendation. Only 4 minutes left in my becoming this session to be ended. And I think that's my time just to quickly give you some glimpses. Building back better. That means certain bridges have been broken during COVID period. And those bridges has to be rebuilt. And bridging gaps is necessary. And for that we require building bridges. Building bridges means that we require to repair the schooling system. Many recommendations came into that form. And one of the recommendations which came is that in the given framework and with the new national educational policy, where government will find itself in a comfortable manner, I think the finest idea is the establishment of a school complex, which will take many of the issues of emotional and social well-being as this concept will emerge. And the organization to which I belong, we have already started an advocacy campaign with the government to establish the school complexes in the school. So the National Association of Professional Social Workers in India has 1 year ago started, and the government says that the state is education is a state concurrently sub matter, so you go to the state also. So we have also approached to the states to establish these school complexes. I think that will be one wonderful idea. Second is that the girls' education is never been a priority in most of the marginalized and vulnerable communities. During COVID, this has become 4th, 5th, 6th priority. If livelihood is the first, then society and social reputation and social ijjat became second, and then comes health, then comes somehow education, and among the education, girl education. So I think for that we have to think, rethink, and I have to propose that a Plan India can have an exclusive 2-day seminar only on this theme, which was the parallel theme of this session. And with this set of recommendations, that how these recommendations can be converted with the help of civil society organization, and where we can go on macro level with the advocacy kind of situation with the government, which be some of the recommendations we can take to the government. Now with this third day, many governments, what they are doing, the report is coming that week is going from 5 to 4 and 0.5 half days. So I think we have to think in that term also, that our schools are functioning at least a requisite number of hours in a week. And a country where we have many days, many jayantis and many chuttis in the school, and where a school teacher is to be engaged in all kind of work, which nobody is engaged. I think creation of a school environment is very important, and to make it realize to the government that teachers are not available for other kind of things which is not related to the education. I think we have to do somewhere, somehow, somebody has to stand one day and to tell the government that primary school teachers are not for animal jargana and to Dev Deepavali and preparing Deepak and all those. They all are essential for the society, but not the teachers. And especially in the states in India where we have a Shiksha Mitra and their conditions known to us. So be realistic, and while we have, we require education, and in that we require quality education, we have to realistically think in terms of, then plan has, it's a one document in 2016. It has made a commitment. And in the first P4EC, they have come out with a charter. I think this is the time to revisit that charter and to add the COVID and post-COVID situations and emergency situations, and what should be the commitment of government and civil society organizations with respect to the quality education. I think we should think, the plan should think in terms of bringing that charter in 2021. And that can be brought also within 5 years, you change the plan. So I think 5 years is enough time when we have worked on that charter of plan. And I think plan can take that lead. The accessibility of resources is one big question when we talk of the quality of education. I think how to go for creating more resources besides the government supported system. That's the, and can any organization take up a advocacy move where it can ask the political parties to declare in their election manifestos that cycle has worked very well. You know, giving cycle to the girl child, all the studies you read about the impact of the cycle to a girl child are very positive. So can we ask that there will be additional devices, as some of our resource persons said, that will also be very ensuring and very appreciative. I think that will be. And finally, we have a Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao. Why not to add another thing, Beti Aage Badhao? You know, so I think we have to revise these slogans, and slogans do make impact. You know, every truck or every auto you will find Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, and somehow, somewhere it is striking to the people, it is coming to their mind. So I think this is one what I want to convey. And with this also 4-minute ends. I have the pleasure to having a galaxy of my resource person and the listeners and participants. I must pay thanks to them. And I feel sorry that I have curtailed their time by putting, my watch here, writing down that 10 minutes is likely to over. But that's a bad job which every chairperson has to do. So I'm not an exception. Thank you very much for being with us and helping me to conduct this session. Thank you very much.